host, Dr. Ranjit Suman. I've been following his research for a while, and he has some very interesting ideas in the AZ tech research. So I wanted to bring him on the show to share a lot of his cutting edge work and brainstorm how we can integrate this in the industry. So first of all, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Michael, for inviting a podcast series for a while now, bringing in interesting people, and it's a great initiative.
Yeah. So, Ranjit, like, can you share your journey, how you started, and disclaimer, like, it's glad to host IIT alumni. I'm also from IIT, so it's great to have you on the show too.
Great. And the construction started even before IIT. So I did my Bachelor of Government Engineering College, Trishur, which is one of the government colleges top three. So what I did there was classic civil engineering and on the classic streams like fluid mechanics, uh, structural engineering, etc. It was this one instance during my undergrad journey that we had to do, and most of my colleagues, I mean, most of my batchmates then were doing it on, etc. But I was a bit into like to see what infrastructure is out. I got a chance through a friend in Motmac to get an internship, and I was posted at like the Coinbase side, like Chennai Metro, early in I think exactly during the high wave of the heat in Chennai. And what happened there, construction management. I also learned how hard it is to be at a construction site, efficiencies with information management. And I kind of saw an opportunity around that. Interested in computer science from a long back. Even during my school days, I was into thinking, can we do this in construction? And I didn't know like what was up in the construction scene, how much tech is implemented, etc. I was looking for courses around and also a little bit abroad. And then there was this kind of competition called Civil Engineering Association Research Expo. It happens like once a year on civil engineering marvels, and we had to give like I think 30 minutes presentation on it. And I along so this is like if you were from a state college or an IIT, it's a prime chance to go and see what is out there in this premier institute. And there with one of my batchmates then, her name is Ranjita, she's working in Sweden. We went together, we presented, and we backed the first prize for the. But what that program gave us is more than that particular prize. See what is happening in IIT Madras, and I got exposed to this particular department, structural management at IIT Madras, headed by. It's a joint institute. There's work on construction materials going on advanced works on local concrete, etc. On the other side, there's research on building physics, on acoustics, and then there's the third stream, which was looking at construction tech and by the work they were doing. And I wanted to work there. Like there was this gate exam, you might be knowing, which is a gateway to like master Indian engineering. So I did the gate exam. I got opportunities to go in. One is MTech at IIT Bombay, your former institute. I was offered, I think, hydraulics and water resources engineering, if I'm not wrong. Got like building and technology, construction, building technology and construction, my IIT Madras. And obviously, I wanted to go take the building technology and this one. Then third, it's a really amazing program to be everyone who's in uh, the labs are open 24/7. You could do whatever in the lab. Like you could test stuff. And like when I was joining there was this new professor joining, Professor Benefit Raphael from Singapore. He's now in IT Madras for, I think, since 2013. And he automation lab, and I was one of the early students there. So there was all this IoT devices lying around. And he told, like, if you have a project, just do it. So I was the Koshi Varghese, who used to be the president of IR, Commission of Automation and Robotics and Construction. So this combo was really good because they had like the lanes, and it's really amazing to be in such a area where you could innovate, like for a conference, and came back with a tablet called Google Tango with the IR sensors on it. The lab intel like do something with it, and we did like 3D scan to them kind of things. These were like completely informal, nothing like on a formal basis. But I kind of devised a project progress monitoring using wireless sensor networks there, and we implemented it. So this is like you develop something, you test it, and on a real construction project, it's a great experience for me, along with a lot of things perks IIT Madras gave me. That was a key point for me. I got a journal paper in automation and construction, led me to my next step, which was my PhD. I was looking at different programs around the world. I want to work a little bit broader. Like when you say construction progress monitoring, you're ignoring a lot of construction tech scene, like the subcontractors, the communication, etc. And I understood that it's a system, more about like systems engineering and construction in order to progress my understanding program. And there was this amazing opportunity from Professor Jennifer White at Imperial College London, center called Center for Systems Engineering and Innovation. So Professor Jennifer White, because she wrote a book long back about virtual reality in construction, and her PhD was on virtual reality in construction. So you could see that legacy coming in, and extends when the metaverse is catching up. Like in the past few years, like she did her PhD in construction, not just virtual reality in the 90s. So that was an amazing opportunity for her, and like at Imperial College London, and I was her, I think, but like the PhD didn't complete or something, or they had a first PhD at Imperial College London. So she also had a lot of time for me. We discussed this idea about like the construction is decentralized. So if we need to use a decentralized technology, and like most of the building information model technology is centralized. So key point in my research comes in, which is a semantic web. So I was looking at the decentralized system, information could be handled such that we could share the information, but not exactly of the data, but the meaning of the data, so that we could do machine learning on it. So I semantic technology, how we could use that to better plan the execution phase, because most of the research is basically at the planning stage or the first plan, which is coming to a level of detail like L3 scheduling, but like not many research goes from there to kind of last mile plan or system from the lean construction side. So I try to work on that particular problem, good connections, and that's where my PhD ended, creating a system to actually use in construction schedules, and then use machine learning to actually create like better plans and information. And it has a lot around that, which we could talk about later. Then I implemented of mine, Kareem Farhali, who's now an assistant professor at UCL. We're postdocs in a project called AC Production Control Room, where we took this idea with semantic web that's into a real construction project. We worked with a couple of other, we worked with from UCL and also Mace Construction and 3D Repo Mission File to kind of create an AC production control room out of it. So that journey from implementation then I was looking at like, okay, I know about web and construction, and that's where opportunity with came in, where he was a lead, interim PA for the project called Circle. And on one of our calls, Daniel told me that the might be interested, and I was like, yes, because this is exactly what I wanted now, and I've been for a while now with this innovative industrial construction and also like blockchain. And so I thought like, okay, I could learn a lot working in his group, and it turned out true. Such I've been here since last November. It's going to be a year in another 2. That's my journey till now, and it's been really good project here, working with global cities spanning between ETH Zurich. So we have ETH and also at Singapore ETH Center in Singapore. So we have researchers from NUS on this particular project. It's been wonderful, like working in this global, managing the project. So that's me basically. My career 2009 to 2022.
That's awesome. Know like what are some applications of AI in construction you have seen in the research community, and what got you excited to working on the current research of using reinforcement learning?
With respect to different technologies that I've seen, so I started out first around scheduling, the classic scheduling, which is resource constrained project scheduling problem. There's been a lot of research on terms of like genetic algorithms and all the swarm optimization and population based. A lot of that at the start. Then the next set of technologies that I saw was deep learning, computer vision, uh, on both 2D and 3D. Very interesting. Professor Manikal Harvard, for which later turned into a company reconstructed. That's very few
In
companies which
fact,
is
I'm
completely
interviewing
background research.
Professor Mani next week.
Oh, that's because like his company is great, like, and also you might have already seen out of Stanford. If you see, that's again kind of like a 4D, not exactly 4D, but like the type constraint method, which is around scheduling, 3D point cloud based methods. So there's a lot of deep learning around that one. Then seen a lot of Bayesian methods being coming up. I'm not sure whether Dr. Long Chen, who's now a assistant professor in Loughborough. So these are all like around the research that we are seeing different AI. Quite seen like this reinforcement learning being applied when I was actually working on it. So it got me fascinated mainly because construction is an industry which lacks data. So you don't have like data sets like usual scheduling data sets or etc. running around. But what we have is difference. So we have a lot of code books like structural design codes, urban plans, etc., around which we do construction. So what got me codify that knowledge. So when I say codify, it is not just into to a machine readable format. So can be converted to a decision tree, can be converted to some. Then without even having this data sets, we could use reinforcement to do this. And around that same time, I was at Alan Turing Institute in the UK, as a data science institute in the UK, where multiple university researchers from us like Cambridge, Oxford, Warwick, Edinburgh, etc. And I got an kind of a program admission to Turing Institute, and I worked 6 months, and I was in a way. So I was listening to the defined talks, etc. And I was listening to there was a from DARPA who came in. if I'm not wrong, his name is who gave a talk about this ideas about generative design, and it's like we should treat computers as partners, not as tools or like algorithms. So this inspired me, like, okay, can I apply this to construction? And I was looking for, we don't have data. So there was this, I'm not sure, I might be wrong, mu zero, I guess, from DeepMind, which was like they were playing like games with them, multiple games together without prior data. So they were actually playing against itself, like
Yeah,
to kind of like
Alpha
create the
Zero.
best one.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alpha Zero, and then it went version. I don't exactly remember the exact progression around it. So first it was just then played the Go, then the Go was onto multiple. So same algorithm on moving towards this idea about like they were claiming it as artificial general intelligence. I have my doubts on it, whether it is AGI or something. There was this controversial paper from Dr. Silverman, and it's called Reward is Enough, I guess. So all of this around inspired me. Third, around reinforcement learning was we can create a knowledge system. In this kind of things, we don't need prior data. So for a system like this is interesting because we have the knowledge system, we have the algorithm, it can learn itself with these two, and we can create like things better. So that was Strike was trying to create this knowledge system already using this link database constraints back then. Then I thought, okay, reinforcement learning might be good. Then I had a friend learning on robotics for uh, um, if I'm, the process. He was again in the computer science and Imperial College, help from him, and then we devised this algorithm for reinforcement learning. There was another Dr. Fenshi, who's now with Amazon, if I'm not wrong. So we first a reinforcement learning algorithm for automatic floor plan generation, just like that for the dependencies. There it worked. So I understood, okay, it can handle reinforcement learning, except of like constraints. And one thing in construction is a lot of constraints. Just move a kind of a block from one point to the next point in the construction site. You need to get constraints, like you need to go through the safety things, you need to have the procurement schedule ready. So there's a lot of constraints. So if you model the constraints together, then reinforcement. So that was my work in which I try to model this different constraints in which I call like database constraint checking system. Then applying reinforcement learning on that really well compared to other population-based methods. I wouldn't say it's the most optimized path, but good enough so that it can help managers make decisions. So if I'm going to look at what scenario, what happens if I employ two cranes more than if I don't do this task and do something else. So these are typically the decisions that's being planning meetings, which I have observed. Like there would be multiple subcontractors and the project manager has to make decisions, has not, and he or she is doing it based on his or her. But now we can actually give data driven insights to manager. So that was key, and we implemented it, and it was really good. We got a lot of other things like the problems when there was like interoperability when systems, and when you are looking into this link database system, it started raising solutions, etc., which the digital engineers takes like days to find out. So they were also happy with it. We employed it in one of the costing projects, and there's a lot of other outcomes, but this was a core outcome. We could actually give data-driven insights. So starting to reinforcement learning, like it's again like this ecosystem of like research happening here, get it, and I was first out of like curiosity getting into it because I haven't seen much of, but like now in our group there's a 7-day research project. Maybe you would be aware of it from Daniel's work in a way. So there we are also actually think of like spaces as different agents in a reinforcement learning. And one of my Han is actually working around that particular idea. Then there's another young pen Kao who's also working on the scheduling around that using reinforcement. There's a lot of work now that's happening around reinforcement learning. But like we were some of the few people who were at the first thing. I think Dr. Feng's my paper came second afterwards. So now there's a very interesting field, and this idea that it doesn't really need a lot of data actually generates something that's very apt for construction.
Quite interesting. And like to your earlier point, like what will it take for us to have like the benchmark of construction scheduling data open source where people can have other models and see how it's performed to that benchmark? So first is data gathering and then setting up the benchmark, like imagenet for object, like they had in 2013-14, and then every new improved AI model compares it's this much more accurate. So can we, can, is it possible to have one for construction?
Uh, the interesting question. Like I had this conversation. I mean, I created like artificial research, but it was also based on a little bit on the project data. So we had the main thing with construction, right? All of this property is like some kind of like I agreement, mainly because major projects have like contractors who don't want to share the schedule, but they give us as kind of their unique business model. So interesting problem to deal with in a way. The first thing that I tested called PSP lib, which is a typical benchmarking for this was constrained project scheduling problem. It's out there from long back. It's a bit tough, but like other in a way it could like the public projects around getting the funding. We should also like create blocks or something in this data set. Like, and we need to have like some of the data sets like it's like airport, complex infrastructure projects like linear construction, training. Then there should be a residential benchmark, commercial building. So we need to have that kind of like it's not just up to researchers, but there's also a need for government bodies to be public in a way, because most of the times it's part of the submittals, but because there's a lot of the problems around it. So it's something that we want to improve. But as researchers, there are like workarounds, like we share the NDA like within the group and stuff, but it's not going beyond that. I think with the 7-day house also we might be able to create some data sets, but we're not fully sure how it would be, because that also has like productivity subcontractors or offsite companies that comes into the model, right? So we cannot share a bit of data filtering and redacting, and at some point like the table for somebody else.
Yeah, like it's always like uh depending on how many companies you work with, you get that data. uh but like what I've seen with like Tesla's model, where even the AI model upgrades with time, it learns from new data. And one could argue you can create synthetic data for construction scheduling and like do the training, but there are always so many unknown parameters when we are in that scene, and each project has its own challenge. So
Exactly. So, so my kind of found that let's say every construction project is unique, but like a lot of us contributing that to that construction project is not unique. It's that combination of the processes, the particular set of combination of the process that make that process. So if you could actually identify the processes and create like the improve it by bit, it would be really different. And in Professor Daniel often goes there's this idea about platforms where the platform is both a product which improves over time. So with everything there is a learning and then it gets improving within companies, inside companies in a way. So if there is like was an idea about like slip form construction, I forgot what they called it, one project, then they improved in the next project, and it goes on like that. Sometimes they realize it's not the companies it's happening, but it's not widely distributed. So that's again rewards and construction we could see like different. So in Tesla, we could say it's a company and it improves over the things are improving within a let's say, but like it's not across the it's a problem. And ours is like highly ocean ecosystem is like a lot of players are there. It's not like one major player, like many players, but still we could count in hand or like count in within hundreds or something like that.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare to have like all the stakeholders as agents, because each agents have different incentive, different like biasness. So it's an interesting
And
problem.
some of these initiatives like I know of was one is the UK I don't know construction leadership in UK etc. Now they book then there's digital twin hub which creates like so they're like there's a lot of like working on um, uh, partly independent but still like working people in most of the things. So uh, there's a lot of like best practices coming out with documentation etc. Some of these projects like cross document which looks at like all the things that they have learned during the project of cross. They had like good stuff which is like crossrail wasn't like not delayed then after they got delayed like what caused the delay etc. Those are coming together now like good document sets like learning legacies. So those are really good because it's but that's a initiative of like the national innovation account which it works and it doesn't work for every country. Um, for instance, in India, L&T, L122 Bro, they have like something like internal kind of benchmark strategies. Uh, so similarly, every company has, but like the problem is like best for big companies, right? But construction also has small players, and they don't really get these like big kind of like benchmarking. So a national ecosystem is really good. It gives us like a better idea about like what is it. And there's also idea about the standardization into this part. Like as long as there's like a bit of like standardization around some of the processes can be like recorded throughout the stakeholders. So
Mhm.
that's that again we might think about like uh, a certain kind of standardization, certain standardization, and like many players can then work on top of those platforms. Like App Store ecosystem is evolving. There was one platform which had a bit of like reviews app. Then we understood like okay, certain apps cannot do something because of the platform. Then we changed the platform. Apps became better, and it continued more kind of like platforms there, which I believe should be a government and private sector combined initiative. Then that would be one of the stepping stones because we can feed back to the platform and platform changes. That means a lot of like coding this processes gets changed. And it also improves a lot of things like safety, for instance, like fire in UK, they kind of understood the importance of the golden thread and taking measures for that so that the future projects won't have that problem. So it's not just about cost, time, and quality or sustainability. It's much more when you have that kind of platform. We believe in a platform-based approach in construction in the coming decades, sustainability as well as improving efficiency.
Uh, if you have unlimited time and resources and funding, what research ideas would you like to pursue?
It's a very interesting yet a very complicated question, but I to pursue is kind of creating something that uh, and which preserves the meaning throughout of whole building life cycle at first, then so it's like creating like a digital for every information is owned by the people who created it. Everybody else can see it only at the lens of what they can see, but they would understand the logic of the information, why somebody created it like that. But the information and that. So there are broad ideas going around on that, but like that's a very challenging thing. This kind of creates a platform in a way. Like everybody could innovate, yet that innovation could reach a larger set of like stakeholders. The main project that I would be concentrating on, and it has many layers like knowledge models, blockchain-based system to create accountability, uh, people process technology kind of a sphere to looking at implement. We need to understand the processes, model the processes, then process that alone is shared with somebody else while preserving the link with the processes and the informations and stuff like that. So that would be a very interesting project that I want to do. Thing. Then we have like a knowledge system in the background, and if our partner, we can just query for certain things. We would get that information, all the shared ones, path for it is connected to like other information sources like logistics, like weather. So if I'm going into a construction site and say, okay, it was supposed to be something today, but the weather is not good. The wind speed is more. The crane cannot reach what I get it out of it. I can have like a knowledge driven decision making in a way, knowledge driven, which is a bit higher. So that would be something that I would be really have unlimited resources.
That's quite interesting. And I'm curious to know your opinion on metaverse for construction and blockchain for construction.
For metaverse, I am not fully sure how that actually. I might have to learn more about it. But like blockchain for construction for me is real fit because in construction nobody trusts anybody else, and blockchain is the best ecosystem where we implement that. And when I say blockchain, I'm not talking about Bitcoin or Ethereum, but that's coming about. So at the moment we are seeing is like some chains like expert on blockchain, but about many interaction with people who are experts in blockchain because but I can see like more chains and more kind of things coming up to for metaverse. There are a lot of areas where we could create like communities, design, progression, etc. Um, but for construction, I'm not fully sure that would be used for decision making, but there would be metaverses for collaboration. I could see as a lot of in a kind of improvement, let's say. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of
like
like this. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
If I am not wrong, like you did one research on like remote construction monitoring from the
Mhm.
room, like using that on that line, like metaverse could be a way of like real time communication, coordination,
Mhm.
visualization. Yeah, but
Yeah, so basically, this user interaction with a model uh, from people who are in different space, kind of like a metaverse kind of a sense of way. But like that's based on like one model, right? But the models are not actually linked together. So I'm not fully sure how that the current models like that are linked together in a metaverse makes an impact. That's basically an expert in metaverse or haven't interacted with the metaverse much. So I might be come blank when I'm talking about it. But I think the major advantage of metaverse is where people are interacting together as a community. But when models are like linked together, like one model, we can have like communities around that, improving a model, for instance, creating decisions on a model. If you're looking at like different forms of visualization of construction, like on a HoloLens, working on a model here, and somebody from Singapore is looking at the model change from year to year, and somebody else is looking at a big screen in the construction site, and that has real potential, like really very good potential. And that work was done by the reconstructing when they were doing something in code, like how many people were on the site or how the spaces should be rearranged completely online using this model. So such things can really work. And there's not in a metaverse, but like there was uh, construction plan sequencing kind of work by freeform 3D. Where currently what they're doing is they put on a HTC Vive, and one person is changing on stuff at a table who are actually seeing it in a screen, and uh, the one who's changing it, but like they would say, okay, if I put the kind of like a forklift like that, I don't have enough, so that won't work. It would be a different way. So they use this amazing like 3D decision, and with kind of like new to be in one room at all. They can be in different parts of the world, and they could still make the same decision potential. But I'm not at the moment. I'm not sure how different models linked together would create a big advantage in the construction at the moment. But like maybe there are when the technology have better
I see.
understanding of metaverse, there would be.
I see. You have done some work on construction analytics. What's the current state of the art in that research area, and have you seen like industrial applications?
Yeah, actually, there are lots now in construction. So the one where I liked, where I worked on was something doesn't happen. You need to know like warnings earlier. So just that area is now out of Alice and other kind of bits of technologies coming in. Idea around like I don't know whether you've heard of this company called N-Plan, from like past schedules of construction for a company and predicting like world uh, based on the past schedules like of a company. So it is like deep learning problems around it, but they're improving it. Then there's Bayesian modeling in construction. So like causal loops might be the problem. So there are works around that, and it's getting transformed into startup companies. Um, then there's this classic work of last plan construction, which you could see already matured projects, products like we see interesting tools to actually handle uncertainty. So I think that construction. Then there are a lot of safety production kind. of construction analytics, like Hong Kong, who's doing like computer vision to understand like construction safety, improving I forgot the name and the company, but like there are looking at it from a computer vision perspective to improve like safety, progress monitoring. Like that's a very booming area of construction analytics. And at the moment, what I'm feeling is that it's not all together, but systems to each other. You would need a data model behind it, but like everybody has a different set of like data structure and semantics, and if that's connected to get huge potential, and that is where I think
Role model.
lots. It's difficult to be one person, but like who has inspired me a lot. Professor Kushiwagi is from IT Madras. Um, Professor Raphael Sachs and Professor Daniel Hall both have done like industry technology research together. Then one of the so these were the kind of like role models from uh, the work that I would, but my life role models, there would be different people, which in the context of this call.
Got it. Is there any book or a movie which made a big impact in your life?
Yes, so impacts on me was um, the Atlas Shrugged kind of gave me a different understanding of all this. Then I was inspired by this book called The Goal by the Gold Thread, like Lean and all those in a very good novel. Then Homo sapiens and Homo deus, which kind of gave me understanding of this imaginary, whatever we see now is kind of like, how do I say, it's all constructs that people have that's different. So it's just because people created it's not real or essential to be by the what we see. So these are some of the books that
Got it. What is your piece of advice to a young budding construction tech researchers?
so first of all, construction as a backward sector, it's really good sector in a way, with a lot of opportunity. Very critical not to be ignorant of the issues in construction of opportunities. But when you think about a startup or a tech, what you think of is this tunnel that you have, which is really bad because like there's a system behind construction, and that's a big thing. And we're not talking about construction as an industry; it's a sector in itself. So you need to have systemic innovations rather than tiny bit of small innovations. When you think about construction and then think about technology, that would be the best approach.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything you wish you would have done differently?
So one of the things that I like go on from one research to another, but like one of the things I couldn't do uh, intern or something in a deep tech industry, which more understanding of different other problems. So that's something I'm kind of like lacking. So like work in a tech not related to construction, uh,
Mm,
then also like applying that back into construction.
got it. I think that's it from my side.
Mm.
Is there any closing message you would like to share before we wrap up?
Interesting talking to you, Mayur. I mean, it's been like most the thoughts that I had going on in my mind and like discuss with a couple of like and but like there's a lot going on, but like the message would be around the change and the importance of sustainability, let's say. So contributing to most of like 39% of carbon emissions, a lot more, right? Like, so as people who are like our job to reduce that in one way or another. So that, and again, when we look at that, think of systemic innovations, small subsystem innovation. So that's my closing message.
That's a great message. It
Yeah,
was an amazing interview. I had great time, and you're doing some amazing research. Look forward to what you publish. So thanks for being on the show
yeah,
again. Yeah.
great. Thank you, Mayu, and thank you everyone for
See you.